It was mostly small independent vape shops. They were run by people who had been cigarette smokers. They felt probably correctly that vaping had saved their lives. In May 2018, they changed the law to make vaping with nicotine legal in Canada. And they seem to do that with good intentions. They seem to be looking at the British model. They seem to understand that whilst youth shouldn't vape, that adult smokers should have the option of a less harmful alternative. And they tried to set it up that way. And they failed quite spectacularly.
A spectacular failure indeed. While all of the consequences detailed up to this point present varying levels of potential harm, none may be more deadly than an unregulated black market.
We are going to push some people, because certainly some people are going to go to the black market, towards something that could be far worse and more immediately worse.
Not only do unregulated products pose a clear and present danger, but millions of tax dollars are lost as well. And in the case of these products, countless legitimate businesses run by your neighbors are replaced by shady enterprises who don't care about the rules or the consequences. To see firsthand how policies like high taxes, flavor bans, and nicotine caps can lead to a growing black market, we visited Canada's most restrictive province in terms of these products, Nova Scotia. If Health Canada is modeling its regulations after Nova Scotia, we wanted to know what reasoning they gave to their citizens for these policies.
The regulators are attempting to regulate based on the fact that they feel that teenagers are using vape, and it's like an epidemic.
This is what's to blame.
Vaping. It was a vial. That was a bad vial. We're not sure yet what was in the vial.
They're using a tragedy around the series of lung injuries from 2019 called EVALI that led to hospitalizations in all 50 U.S. states and the death of over 60 people. In the initial panic, the CDC and FDA pointed fingers at all vapor products. But as time went on, the data seemed to show something much different than initially believed.
As the CDC has come out and said and clarified now, vitamin E acetate, in for the most part THC vapes, was the driver of that outbreak. Patterns we saw with vaping-related lung injuries were more consistent with an illicit market, an informal market product.
As Dr. Friedman stated, the most deadly outbreak related to tainted cartridges did not come from a legal regulated manufacturer, but from an unregulated black market. Now, most people understand the dangers of consuming black market products, but in Nova Scotia, prohibition by price has driven many people to continue taking that risk because, at the end of the day, it is simply more affordable.
You know, why not buy a bottle from your local black market for $12 or $15 versus coming into a retail store with insurance, federally approved products that are regulated by Health Canada, and they're not paying the tax, they're not having it in a clean room, there's no ID verification, there's nothing.
The kids are still vaping, but they're getting unregulated e-liquid.
And that's a big argument for making it legally. So when you make it legally, you can mandate stuff like childproof containers. Whereas if it's a backstreet thing that people are doing illicitly, then they're not going to pay extra for the backstreet for the childproof container because that just cuts into their profit.
And that's always the risk, right? The more we legislate our way around products with bans, the more incentive there is to come up with a workaround. The workaround being usually informal or illicit provision. Now, as long as that workaround is profitable, that's going to exist, right? We can try to tamp it down with enforcement. But from an economist's perspective, the best way to do away with the black market is to create a legal regulated market that makes the black market less profitable. When we ignore what regulations do to the black market, people suffer.
If we want to protect citizens in general, reasonably regulated products sold by professionals with moderate taxes is the most logical way. Black markets are not. I know this sounds a little dramatic, and it might be hard to picture this unregulated future. But we know people are going to make these products at home because they have already started. Some are looking to make a profit, while others are simply trying to stay away from cigarettes.
About a month ago, I decided I am not going to be the beck and call of these ignorant, self-righteous so-and-sos. So I got myself a collection of bottles and flavors and propylene glycol and vegetable glycol and nicotine. And I now make my own. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I feel like a traitor doing this, because I feel betrayed by the people who should have been protecting us. And I would never have done it. But if they're going to go ahead with this, they will wipe out the vape stores, whether I want it or not. But they are not going to wipe me out. They're not going to send me back to smoking.
If a retired English teacher can figure it out, who else will be trying this at home?
Kids are going to do it too. And kids may not know the difference between water-based flavors and oil-based flavors. And we all know where that leads. That leads to EVALI.
So what is the answer? Surely Health Canada and other similar health bodies around the world are not moving forward with no plan in place to curb this avoidable black market. To get a glimpse into a potential future, we dug into how Nova Scotia handled the legalization and regulation of a different substance with a long and storied black market history, cannabis. The Canadian government actually sells flavored cannabis?
Yes. Yeah. You can still walk into the NSLC, the Nova Scotia Liquor Commission, and purchase your flavored cannabis as well as your flavored alcohol.
So the province that banned flavored nicotine vapor products because they allegedly attract kids allows the sale of flavored cannabis products? At first glance, this looks hypocritical, but it becomes even more curious when you realize that the only place in Nova Scotia where you can purchase these products are government-run businesses where the government keeps the profit. Might Health Canada eventually adopt a similar model with nicotine vapor products? That we don't know. But if it does, it will only happen after hundreds of small businesses are forced to close their doors and countless citizens, both young and old, are injured or killed by tainted products. The biggest shame here is how avoidable all of this is. History has the lessons on prohibition. But when we don't listen to the experts or our neighbors with experience, history has a nasty habit of repeating itself.